Did you know that there is a change.org petition to renew the Acolyte for a second season? To be fair, I imagine you probably did know, as this has probably been hot news on YouTube for quite some time, as it's been up for like 20 days at this point. But it leads into a wider, more interesting discussion, which, well, first and foremost, go sign the petition. What are you waiting for? God help us. Disney willingly shoveled $180 million into Lucifer's ever-infernal asshole, and I see absolutely no reason whatsoever why we should stand between Disney and yet another disastrous financial decision. In fact, we should be shoving them. But, okay, so, The Acolyte. The Acolyte didn't work out very well at all for Disney. It cost $180 million in total for something like $22.5 million per episode. It did not get any viewers, and it certainly did not reach anywhere near the level required to pay for itself, even on a platform with 153 million subscribers. Even the Star Wars brand on that massive of a platform is no longer anywhere even remotely close to enough to keep a show above water. And it was also very indicative of this fact that Disney only launched a single season of their wokest show ever. As I've argued for multiple times previously, this was Disney's last hurrah for wokeism. It was looking at the wokers and going, where's the modern audience you promised us? And then going, listen, go all in on us and we'll finally show you this diverse audience. Let us go full woke, the gayest Star Wars ever, and finally the diverse audience will ride to our rescue. Well, Disney went all in but only gave them one season, which is remarkable in a time where most of these shows are greenlit for 2 or 3 seasons at a time before a single episode has actually been produced. And it flopped. Which means Disney is in now all due likelihood in full-on panic control, trying to change their course as they've finally realized after 10 years that the wider audience, it doesn't exist. Best case scenario, there's about 70,000 of them out there, and, that's not going to be enough, is it? But this article here is rather interesting. This is by Paul Tassi, a person who once had several more brain cells than he does today, it seems, writing an article called "The Acolyte has caused Star Wars fandom to plunge into a civil war." Well, it's less of a civil war and more of a, local province brushfire guerrilla conflict, but hey, details. As, again, 72,000 signatures is actually not bad at all for a change.org petition, but for a show that cost $180 million, it is pretty terrible. I mean, to put this into context, right? That is fewer subscribers than is on my channel. In fact, I believe I've had 2 videos the last 7 odd days that have reached the 70,000 viewers mark in 7 days, like this one and this one, right? And that is on some tard's YouTube channel, crushed underneath the weight of the algorithm, and yet still I outcompete this change.org petition, which has been up for damn near a month, which also heavily disproves the whole nonsense about the wider audience. What was it here? What was it? Ah, yes. Regardless of the orchestrated review bombing by a small fraction of loud trolls and all the other obstacles the show had faced straight out of the gate, it trended repeatedly. Oh, I know it trended. It trended because of the small, loud minority, the insignificant YouTube minority, like Nerdrotic, for example. whose videos aren't merely outcompeting the change.org petition, but absolutely unironically burying it. This is the small minority. Anywho, you think the drama of The Acolyte is over? Think again, as now what has been argument about content of the show has progressed into a full civil war in the Star Wars fandom and community. Again, more of a brushfire conflict, but details. The two parties are fans that appreciate shows like The Acolyte and did not appreciate what seemed to be a coordinated, relentless assault on the show and its actors by YouTubers and their subscribers. They are attempting to demonetize many of those accounts, which they believe are racist and encourage targeted harassment campaigns. The other side, they don't like the show because it's written poorly. I mean, when you put it like that, Paul, You certainly do make this side sound absolutely fucking insane. One side enjoyed the bad show and dreamt up excuses and ideas of racism and tithe harassment. The other side hated the show for normal reasons. Well, shit. This is going to be a remarkably unjust civil conflict, isn't it? Oh, God. Oh, okay, so, to leap a little bit ahead here, so the state of things right now. Members of the Star Wars community, in support of shows like The Acolyte and his actors, banded together to create a movement to try and get a number of specific Star Wars channels demonetized, with examples of what they believed was racism and harassment in the videos, which should be against YouTube's TOS. Well, actually, they weren't really targeting Star Wars channels overall, they were actually targeting the commentary channels. They were targeting Nerdrotic, Geeks and Gamers, and what was the other one? I forget now. But that was who they were called. The English were targeting, not necessarily Star Wars channels. The largest one, though, Star Wars Theories, I believe, was mentioned in the allegations not as a, we're gonna come after you now, but more as a, you better be careful or you're gonna be the next target. You better be on our side in this, sir. And, of course, I have read these allegations, and no, there was no examples of what anyone could possibly believe to be racism and or harassment. There was no evidence in those two pages created, nor was there anything in rewriting Ripley's posts either. There were no examples, there were no excerpts, there were no screenshots, there was nothing beyond, you evil right-winger you, which, well, here's the thing. It's not 2014 anymore. This is what I talked about in, well, this video, their last weapon destroyed. Because the simple allegation is all the progressives have ever had. They've not had a solid moral position or a consistent stance. They have merely had, well, us to use against ourselves. It has had the weapons of liberalism, our hatred of racism and inequality, our hatred of the bully, so that they can then point at somebody they don't like and go, that person is everything you dislike. And that was, for the longest time, enough. However, 10 years later, we have eventually learned our lesson. However, once YouTube itself was tagged, the concept was met with an immediate reply 13 minutes later from YouTube that they reviewed the video in question and found that it was not in violation and no action would be taken. This was celebrated immediately by the targeted YouTubers in question. Wow, I wonder why. Their entire livelihood, their family's livelihood, their jobs, their entire existence was threatened. And they celebrated when it was no longer in threat. How mean of them. Though further investigation reveals this is a pretty generic YouTube auto message which has been used hundreds of times before, and there is no evidence that YouTube took the quite elaborate movement seriously for more than a few minutes. Oh no, they did. I mean, this Paul Tassi, this is a request for an update. This is them asking, appreciate a formal response or update in regards to a well-documented argument. Well, not very well documented. And yes, of course it's a formulaic response, that's the only way YouTube communicates. At least to those they don't actively like and or support, that is. Movement series from one friend, or did anything resembling investigation? They already do. They scan literally every single video that is uploaded. If YouTube's countless automated bots have not gathered any evidence of racism over the alleged hundreds of videos produced, then in all due likelihood, there isn't any. It was likely just a bot scraping a video, and what video that even is wasn't clear. When embed to Twitter, the level of abruptness and lack of diligence is not very surprising. Yes, it is. It is, because again, this is another one of the left's things, like, oh, YouTube has always been against us, even as it has wielded the weapon of cancel culture for 10 years, even as they feel they have the balls to organize harassment movement on Twitter to demonetize people, and they believe it will function, otherwise they wouldn't do it, and yet when it doesn't happen, they're like, of course, YouTube is a right-wing organization. You crazy people. The YouTuber side of this has escalated thanks to Star Wars Theory, the largest Star Wars fan channel on the internet, who has been the frequent centerpiece of what is viewed as the toxic part of the fandom. Not really. Star Wars Theory, if anything, has been an enormous fence rider, but, well, here's the thing. If you are not with the left, you are in opposition to the left. I don't care what you're trying to do, sir. You are now alt-right. by simply standing in opposition to the left. Theory also constantly bashed the Acolyte with the usual "it's the bad writing" and breaks canon claims, both of which are undeniably correct. You cannot make the argument that the Acolyte does not break canon or that it isn't written poorly. Though it's a long pattern of moving on from focused Star Wars lore discussion to lambasting much of what Disney has produced. Yes, because much of it is shit. Theory went off on social media, saying that things had crossed the line by trying to get these channels demonetized, which goes after people's, quote, livelihoods. Paul. If somebody started a movement to get you delisted from Forbes, to get your internet presence removed, to get you blacklisted from all sites across the internet, to remove your livelihood, would you consider that to be a target attack on your livelihood? Or is it merely because they are YouTubers and you don't like them very much that allows you to go, livelihood? What, you don't think Gary here is earning a living off this? Really? I don't know, dude, I think he's doing quite well for himself. He just released a video calling out another channel, Star Wars Explained, which was one of the ones who fanned the flames around this, who had signed on to the demonetized movement. A video which got extremely personal, rewiring his private communication with the channel's owner in the past. Reviewing, I'm presuming, yes. Here's my take on this whole grand drama, which does not appear to be even over yet. Oh, I don't know. There's gonna be some more fallout here and there, but I'm pretty sure a victor has already been decided. In fact, I think that was decided about 5 years ago. The hate for the Acolyte is unlike anything I've seen in Star Wars history, possibly even more than Last Jedi, which is saying something. Oh yes, absolutely, no doubt about it, because The Last Jedi, well, it was not a particularly good movie, but compared to The Acolyte, oh holy shit. Apples and tomatoes, sir. There are degrees of bad writing. It isn't just a flat playing field here, where if something is shit, it's all shit. Oh no, The Acolyte is so much worse. Osha makes Rey look downright charismatic, and I know that is a remarkable statement to make of the cardboard box that speaks, but God, it is true. There absolutely was an industry created on YouTube dismantling the show, each and every week more forcefully than anything else before it, even though this We Hate Disney Star Wars crew has been around for a long while. It did in fact make talking about the Acolyte online with any semblance of positivity practically impossible without being swarmed by what were often devotees of these channels, if not the YouTubers themselves. Yes, because we are having a discussion on the internet, we are having an argument, and if you dare bring up the argument about civility after defending a demonetization movement, sir, with the utmost respect, fuck yourself. The Acolyte was almost certainly cancelled for an absurdly high budget, reportedly 180 million, and very low viewership, yes, which third-party estimates have documented as being lower than any other Star Wars series. Again, this is the thing. It is not the mainstream media or Disney that determines whether or not something is a success. It is the YouTubers. It is the people setting and creating the culture that determines the success of a thing in this day and age. And the Acolyte, well, it goes completely contrary to everything that our culture stands for. Thus, it gets slammed. Still, the cancellation was absolutely celebrated as a win by this YouTube fan crowd, because it was. And what they believe is vindication of their hate campaign against the show. Vindication against wokeism. Vindication against a hate campaign against us. You are covering a movement trying to demonetize people. Your version of the Star Wars fandom, of the Acolyte fans, are the people attempting to take away somebody's livelihood. And here you are, like, you shouldn't celebrate defeating such fine, upstanding people. My dude, you are siding with the villains, the self-declared, here I am, villains. And then you are looking at the heroes who just defeated them and going, aren't you being a little bit too happy? Oh my god, dude. You cannot be serious. If Amanda Stenberg says she experienced lots of racism before and during the airing of the series, she's not lying. How can you say that with such confidence? And there are multiple examples of racism against other actors of color in Star Wars, from John Boyega to Moses Ingram. Present them. What examples of racism do you have from these YouTubers? Do you have random comments on their Instagram posts, perhaps? Like, what do you have? What do you have that you can tie to this movement? You have diddly dick nonsense. Hell, on the other hand, we have plenty of evidence of them lashing out against us, don't we? We even have, in Disney itself, India I was about to say, Disney telling Moses Ingram, hey, watch out for the racists, and when you see any racists, tell us, so we can use that in our marketing campaign. This is idiotic. It would be very difficult to mount any sort of campaign to prove to a giant corporate blob like YouTube that specific Star Wars channels are breaking TOS due to racism or harassment. No, it would actually be extraordinarily simple. It would be unfathomably simple. People have their YouTube's channels removed over allegations all the time. Just recently, for example, with the DOJ Russia nonsense, people have had their channels destroyed over allegations, yet to actually be proven. It is very easy to get somebody taken off YouTube, frighteningly so. But the reason why it's so difficult is because you don't have any examples. It is indeed difficult to get a channel removed over nothing. At the very least now, it is. As evidenced by that 13-minute later auto-response. Not because it's not true necessarily, but getting anyone other than some keyword searching robot to examine this closely is nearly impossible. Like, again, what do you think the human will find the robot will not, exactly? I mean, if you had an example, you're a human being, Paul, I presume. Well, you can find something, go find it, report it to YouTube, put it here. Like, you've got an excellent example to own all of us now. Go to Gary's channel, go to Nedrotic, go to Geeks and Gamers, go to Star Wars Theory, and just find the racism. It's pretty simple, right? They've got hundreds of videos being racist. Shouldn't take you long, right? There will likely be nothing to stop this large group of YouTubers and their large audience. I cannot think of other examples of fandom where a toxic portion has simply been wiped off the map in any meaningful way. Oh, I can. Oh, I absolutely can. We are living it right now, Paul. The single most toxic part of the Star Wars fandom, of any fandom ever, the wokeists, the people that move into settings and obliterate them, ruin them, turn Star Wars from the most profitable franchise in human history to a garbage dump. Those people are being eradicated right now. The only problem is, you've identified yourself alongside the villains. You are on the side of evil. And now, the heroes are apparently defeating you. Again, that is an unfortunate position to take, and yet that is very much so where we are. Maybe the worst offenders sometimes, but rarely, it just doesn't really happen. It's more pronounced here because Star Wars is one of the worst manifestations of this, other than, say, MCU haters who spend 100 videos on their channels going after Brie Larson. It may not surprise you that there's a significant overlap in these channels. I thought you said they were racist. Is Brie Larson black now? Who even knows? And you cannot rely on Disney to back up its harassed actors like they should, and you cannot rely on YouTube to do anything useful here. They are corporations, they care about money above everything else, and they rarely will ever listen to fans over issues like this. Unfortunately, that is just the way it is. So again, here's the thing, if they care about money, then if you are in the majority, you are in the driving seat. If you are the majority, you determine who gets the money. You hold the purse strings. Your logic defeats itself at every turn. If you are the majority, you could easily make the Acolyte a success. If you were the majority, you wouldn't be looking at these channels and go, oh, they're too big to fight. If you were the majority, you wouldn't be asking to demonetize them. If the corporations were truly just greedy, you would have every advantage. But you do not. You are not the majority. And Disney is already a channel, a corporation that has bent over backwards for you. Google, YouTube is already corporations that have bent over backwards for you. The very reason they created a show as woke as Acolyte is because you dominate these corporations. Disney is not a right-wing organization. Disney is not on Nerdrotic's side. They are not on my side. They are not on our side. Gary here does not get invitations to Disneyland to write about Star Wars Outlaw. You are simply on the wrong side of this, Paul, and everything you write continue to reinforce that point, but you are so deep in this now that you cannot admit the position you have established for yourself, because if you do, you will have to face the fact that not only are you the minority, not only are you on the losing side, but you are on the side of the villains. You are on the side of those who wish to take other people's livelihood away. And it is only natural for the human mind to protect oneself from the realization that you are the baddies, as they say. That does not, however, change the fact. So, the Acolyte. I do hope it continues on this way, and again, do go sign the petition, because I too want to see a second season of The Acolyte. Let's get this puppy up to a total cost of $400 million for Disney. Let's see if we can get it to 4 or 5 seasons. We still have a long way to go to the Rings of Power's monetary loss. Keep pushing. We might just be able to bankrupt Disney with this shit. Make this the next Morbius, please. Until next time, I've been Arch. Thank you all very much for listening, and I do hope to see you all again soon. Have a good day.